welcome everyone out there on Facebook and on YouTube. Game one, post game recap. We got myself, we got Todd Mack to the left.
It's good.
Wow. Game one, as you can see scrolling at the bottom, AD had 34, blowout win, 116-98. It really wasn't that close. It was close early on. And then from there on, after that first quarter, it was almost like the floodgates were basically open. Give me your thoughts on this game one of the NBA Finals.
Uh, man, blowout, bro, just blowout. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we had already said we was looking at this series already, and we knew that it was going to be a contrast of styles, right? The Lakers being a big physical team, the Heat being a smaller team but really really good shooting. A scrappy team, good defense. And I mean, the Lakers just bullied them tonight, man. It was straight
Yeah,
just they came out like they were like the champions already, right? And they
right.
just beat them down. You know, um, I do think that some injuries played a role in that. I think we'll talk about that later, but just the my first thoughts of that game was just like LeBron being a champ, being being a three-time champion. You know what I'm saying, and having a lot of veteran players on his team. They came out and they pushed their will. They set the pace for the first game, and they look pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I was taking some notes, and early on, I was saying, the Heat didn't look scared. They didn't look scared in that first quarter. Obviously, they had a lead, starting off. I've
15 points.
been, yeah. I've been very critical of one particular player, Contavious Caldwell Pope, and guess what? He had 2 threes at the beginning of the game. And Danny Green was getting in there. It was almost like they were holding on to these guys just for the finals. Because Danny Green has pretty much been irrelevant in the playoffs up until now. Um, Contavious Caldwell Pope, as much as I trash the guy, he got 2 key threes early in this game, and it was almost like once it clicked, and once the Lakers were all in, it was pretty much a wrap from there on. And I think this series, it's only game one, so I'm not going to get too high on it. I said Lakers in six. It's a long series. You know how this. I mean, we've been watching sports for so long. You know how this works. At first game I think it's kind of a gut check, kind of a test. I'm expecting Spoelstra. You mentioned this, to make some changes, to make some switches. But at the end of the day, it's major matchup problems, and that's why AD 8 tonight. Rondo, I think, was key. He had some assists. LeBron almost had a triple double. I'm not sure the exact stats, but he almost had a triple double. But give me your thoughts on that first quarter. Looking at the Heat and what they did.
You know what? The Heat came out and as you point out, they didn't look like they were scared. They was letting the ball fly. They were moving the ball pretty well, playing good defense, running their sets to perfection. They came out looking like a team that was prepared to play with the Lakers.
Right.
And then a couple key turnovers early in the game in the first quarter allowed the Lakers to kind of get some momentum, get back in the game. And then that second quarter, all the injuries just like started to happen, right? So first, the Dragic injury, he ended up getting taken out in the second quarter, never came back. Then you
No.
saw Jimmy Butler take that bad step at the end of the first half, and he was just hobbled the rest of the game. So when you saw that shift, because they were still hanging with him that second quarter, they were still hanging with him. But once Dragic went down, the whole it seemed like it just deflated the team almost. Like they just couldn't make no shots. They couldn't really get any good looks. Started making dumb mistakes. It was one play in particular I remember where Jay Crowder had the ball in the corner. He caught a pass. He caught a pass from Tyler Hero. And Hero actually had it going early in the game. He was shooting the ball really well. But Hero ran a little curl. But he stepped out of bounds. He never really reestablished himself, and Crowder made the pass anyway. It ended up being a turnover. And then the next play down, I think LeBron ended up coming down and hitting a three. Right. So stuff like that, like you can't turn over the ball against this team, right? You can't turn over the ball against the
No.
Lakers. You're already at disadvantage, like I said, because of the size. You have to play smart basketball. And like I said, they just didn't play smart basketball after Dragic went down. And primarily, I think that's because he's their best ball handler. He's usually the best ball handler. He makes pretty good decisions majority of the time on the floor. So they missed him out there. And one thing that they didn't do, they didn't go back to the young guy who had been playing all season in Kendrick Nunn. They didn't go and restart him. And I think they ended up putting in Iggy, right? Iggy
Right.
gave you some good minutes, but the problem with Iggy is Iggy don't really give you offensive firepower. He makes good decisions. He's a smart, high IQ player. He plays defense, but he doesn't give you that firepower that you need that Dragic can give you, because Dragic can still shoot the three. He can still get to the rim. He can do all those different things. So they missed that. They missed that for the rest of the game. I think Kendrick Nunn ended up finishing with 20 points, I believe,
Yeah.
off the bench. Yeah, he finished with 18 points off the bench. But this is a guy who's been playing the entire season, and since the playoffs have started, we haven't really seen him. And, rightfully so, because he's a young dude that makes mistakes, but I think you got to ride what got you to the playoffs, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I mean, right now you're in the finals. Like what you need. I mean, all chips are on the table. So you got to do whatever's going to work and whatever is going to create problems for the other team. And it just looked like the Lakers were just on. Like I said, from after that first quarter, it was kind of like it clicked. Dwight Howard had some good minutes. Dwight Howard has been given good minutes, the entire season since he got with the Lakers. Deion Waiters was in street clothes, so Deion Waiters just didn't even play. I mean, it's like this team is so deep that, I mean, the guys that do come in, I mean, they don't even have to go too far to their bench, kind of what I'm saying. But I think it's only game one, but to me, this is pretty telling, because let's talk about those injuries. We got 3. Bam went out. And the fact is, Bam hurt his shoulder against the Celtics the last series. If anybody remembers that, he stayed in the game. Everything seemed to be fine. So I don't know if it's if it's something that's torn, or if it's something that dislocated or something like that. So he was out and he went out. Dragic went out. I didn't even notice he got injured. I guess it was, like you said, it was a no contact foul. And then Jimmy. Now Jimmy's injury, I think, is not just for right now, but that's probably for like the next coming games. What is that going to look like for Jimmy? What is that going to look like for this team as a whole? So talk about those injuries. How you think that's going to affect, going forward?
Oh man, that's huge. When we talked about Miami and Miami having a puncher's chance, as Will would say, but what Miami has a puncher's chance, that puncher's chance was based on them having depth, right? So, having all your players, and then having a guy like Tyler Hero that can come off the bench and give you something, having a guy like Iggy who can come off the bench and give you something, having a Derrick Jones or a Lennox give you some good minutes. Like having these other players who can come in and give you good minutes, give you a little bit of scoring, and some defense to allow your starters to rest and stay fresh the entire game. So giving, different looks at different players, at LeBron, at AD, etc. Dragic going down, that hurt completely, right?
Yeah.
Because like I said, he's
The
your
leading
best
scorer.
He's your lead. He's been the leading scorer in the playoffs. People, they gave Tyler Hero's props for the last series. I think he averaged 20 the last series or close to it. Of course, you give Jimmy Butler, his props because he's been there like making key shots and things like that. But Mr. Consistent, Gordon Dragic, he's been consistent the entire series, the entire playoffs. He is your leading scorer. He's been your leading scorer the entire playoffs. That's 20 points that's lost off the floor. So how do you replace that? You know what I'm saying? And also the decision making. How do you replace that? So now you have to figure out, if you're Miami and he can't go game 2 or game 3, however long, because it was a non-contact injury. So it could be serious. It could be really serious. But how do you go game 2? What do? You can't wear out Jimmy Butler being a playmaker, because Jimmy Butler ended up with the assignment of LeBron James. He has to guard LeBron. So
Right.
he has to initiate a lot of energy. He has to expend a lot of energy on defense, guard him, and then you still depend on him to give you 17 to 20 points, right? So you can't look at him being your only creator, your only playmaker on the floor. So you need
Yeah.
somebody else to step up. Iggy stepped up and took that role today, but like I said, his deficiencies is shooting, so he can't stretch the floor. Him not being able to stretch the floor doesn't get Tyler Hero those looks. Duncan Robinson, who was, I mean, did he play tonight? I mean, I mean, oh, I
He
mean,
did.
oh, zero.
What did he do though?
Oh,
He
here you
didn't
go.
do that
Oh,
much.
0 for 3. He took 3 shots. 3 shots. That's, again, you need that guy to be able to score. And then defensively, he got torched the whole game. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that later. But
Yeah. And breaking news right now. Goran Dragic suffered a plantar tear of
he's
his
out.
left foot in game 1. He,
He's
it
done.
says, has not ruled out returning to the NBA Finals. But when we're talking about a tear
He's done.
in regards to anything, that's not good. That's
He's
not
done.
good at all.
He's done.
So, shout out to Miss Mocha Bella. How you doing tonight? I know you got to be upset. Let me know how you feel about your Heat right now. But Dragic, man, that's not good. He was your leading scorer, like you said, and I think he was also able to create. So as he's going to the hole and people are gravitating towards him, he's able to pass it out to other people. Now, one thing that I think it was Mark Jackson, not Mark Jackson, but Van Gundy did mention is that when they were talking about defense and he was talking about Dwight Howard making the calls. I mean, Dwight Howard just looked so vocal. I'm happy for him if they get a ring, which I'm pretty much saying they're gonna win. I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be great for his career. And I think you just think about how hard you work, to be able to get to this point. And he's in a lesser role, yes, but the minutes that he gives, it's been gravy.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at Bam, and I don't know what, I guess we'll see what happens with Bam. If anything comes through, we'll definitely let you guys know. But with the Bam injury, what Bam and the value that he brings with him out, I guess that means you're gonna have Olynyk, and you're gonna have Derek Jones playing, and neither one of them can guard AD or anybody else. So that's going to be a major problem. We'll see what happens with Bam, but obviously this was an injury from the last series, so this isn't something new. And now when you're in the finals, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, Spo has to go back. Spo and his coaching staff has to go back, and they have to probably change their entire game plan, right? Like, that's how significant of an injury. This is how significant those injuries are, right? Like I said, Dragic being your ball handler, your decision maker on the floor, he's out. Who do you bring in? Do you start Kendrick Nunn? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he played good all season, but he's a young dude. You know what I'm saying? And so, do you trust him to now handle the ball all game? Or do you go ahead and let Jimmy Butler play that point guard position and bring somebody else in? Do you look at this team being a gritty defensive team? Do you just say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe we need to be more offensive. And like I said, start Kelly Olynyk if Bam can't play. Start Kelly Olynyk, and that's going to space the floor because he's a shooter. So start Kelly Olynyk. Maybe you actually activate Miles Leonard, who's on the bench too, who can shoot
Right.
the three. And
Right.
he's a decent rebounder. He's terrible on defense. You know what I'm saying? But he, again, another guy who can stretch the floor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you look at that and you're like, okay, like, what is now my strategy? Because I have to figure out a way to get my guys going and open up the floor to attack more, because I don't have that guy who can put it on the floor and drive to the rim and just really create now outside of Jimmy. So I need to space the floor and really use ball movement now to get the shots that I need to get. Guys like Duncan Robinson was non-existent. He has to show up.
Right.
In order for you to have any shot at this series, you need all your guys to show up.
All of
You
them.
need Duncan Robinson to take more than 3 shots. He needs to take about 10 shots a game. Tyler Hero was 6 of 18 tonight. He has to be more efficient coming off the bench, but he shot 18 shots tonight. Like I said, Iggy's going to have to attack the rim more. He has to be more of a scorer. Like, you're going to need everybody to pick up their play to make up for Dragic, right?
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody who can make up. Like, you don't have nobody on your team that can
No.
fill in for Bam at all. No. And so, like I said, this is one of them things where, you look at this game, they played everybody else pretty well. LeBron and AD got theirs. Like we said, LeBron and AD was going to get theirs.
Regardless.
But the other guys, Kyle Kuzma, he was 1 for 7 tonight. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he was 3 of 10 tonight. Dwight Howard had 0 shot attempts, right? McGee was I think he was 1 for 6. You controlled everybody else. LeBron and AD just killed you, though. Yeah. And LeBron did what he was supposed to do, which was, as I said, LeBron create shots for everybody else. So he got them looks. Even though they didn't knock him down tonight, he got them looks, which is his job. He ended up with 9 assists tonight. I think he had 25 points. But Miami has to figure out a way to contain LeBron. You can't stop him. Contain him. And what I mean by contain is you have to take something away from him. You cannot, either you're going to decide, hey, we're going to make a concerted effort to not let him score, or we're going to make a concerted effort to not allow him to get everybody else involved. But you got to make a decision. You can't say, okay, we're going to let him score. It's like, no, now we're going, no. You got to make a decision, and that got to be your game plan the entire game. Hey, we're not going to let LeBron be a creator tonight. He abused Duncan Robinson. They kept on allowing him to switch. And, he'll start off with Jimmy Butler on him, or he'll start off with Iggy on him, and it always got around to Duncan Robinson somehow. And once Duncan Robinson was on him, it was cookies. Like, it was like, he just looked at him like his eyes got hecka big. He was like, oh, I'm about to score, baby. I'm about to score. Like, it was easy work for him. He drove to the rim. Everybody collapsed. He kicked out. Or he drove to the rim. Nobody moved. He laid it up. You have to figure out a way to make that difficult for him. You can't let him do both. So you got to make a lot of adjustments. But they're in a deep hole. Even though it's only game 1, they're in a deep hole without Dragic being there. Because he's, like I said, I don't think having a plantar planaritis tear, a plantar, you can't cut. He can't cut at all. You can barely run on that. You can't cut at all, though. I don't think he comes back.
You need that.
Yeah, he could gut it out. He could try to gut it out, but he's not. I'll be shocked to see him come back for this series.
Yeah, and this is the most important series of their entire season. Number 1, and number 2, like, he is very key in them winning. And like you said, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, everybody has to be on their game in order for them to even have a shot. Now, I said 1 or 2 games. People were like, I don't even think they're gonna get 1. You said a sweep. The first game is always it's some overreaction, and it's some, like, honesty. Somewhere in the middle is how the rest of the series is going to go. But the way this game ended, and the way these injuries happened, I think is going to be a problem. And just to be clear, nobody on the Lakers was injured. LeBron looked like he was it looked like he was aching on the floor, but I'm sure he's probably fine. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Danny Green gave you some points. So it's like whoever is able to give you points besides AD and LeBron is a huge plus. And then you look at Rondo, whatever he's able to do to help facilitate. Rondo obviously doesn't care about being the top scorer or anything like that. He just cares about facilitating the ball. So the Lakers have so many weapons, and people were saying that Jimmy did. I don't know if you've seen this, but Jimmy did what LeBron should have done, which he went to a team with pretty much, some good role players and some good young players, and he took them to the finals. But to take your team to the finals and not win it's a good feat, but you didn't reach the ultimate goal, and I think that's what they're going to end up experiencing. By the time this series is over with.
I mean, the way these injuries are looking and how this roster might look now after the injuries, man, you might be looking at what's that, the 2007 Cavs that made it to the finals? That's what you looking at right now. You're looking
Yeah,
at that right now. It's just you can't win, man. I mean, like I said, they had an uphill battle anyway. I thought that Miami as constructed is a really good team. They have talent, they have youth. Um, they have shooting, they have defense, but that was all pending on their depth. You know what I'm
right.
saying? And without that depth, they don't have a shot at all. They're just, like I said, the Lakers are bullies, man. They're
Oh
bullies.
yeah,
You know,
LeBron. Hey, LeBron was playing. I can't count on both of my hands how many times Van Gundy said bully ball
yeah,
because that's all he has to do. All he has to do is put his head down and run to the hole. Shout out to DJ King Royal. Thank you for tuning in. Give me your thoughts on tonight's game one. But it's that's all he had to do was put his head down and go to the hole, and not
yeah.
having Bam and Jimmy. Jimmy's not at 100%. Now we'll see what this means going into game two. But all LeBron in almost every series and every game I've ever seen LeBron in, he does the same thing every time. We haven't really seen anybody that I can say, maybe you can mention somebody that has been able to stop it because he's so strong and so big and so physical. Like you got to be bigger than him. You got to basically be Shaq. To me, Shaq would probably be the only person to be able to stop him because Shaq is bigger than him and more physical.
Well, like I said, when you're playing LeBron, you have to decide how you want to play him. How you want to what do you want to do?
Right,
Do you want to take away his ability to be a facilitator, or do you want to take his ability to score? Right? And you have to decide from beginning of the game to the end, this is what we're going to do. Teams that have beat LeBron, they've typically decided we are not going to let LeBron beat us by facilitating. Right? So when you look at San Antonio, who's beat him a bunch of times, and then the Warriors who've beat him a bunch of times. You know what I'm saying? That's all and even
yeah,
Dallas, right? In Dallas when they
right,
beat him,
right. Back
you know,
back in in the Miami days, yeah,
you know, literally their focus was LeBron is the best player, but he's his best when he's being a facilitator, when he's creating for everybody else. Because LeBron can get his shot whenever he feels like it. LeBron can go give you
yeah.
50 whenever he feels like it,
Whenever he
hands down.
wants,
You
right,
know, but he's typically your best facilitator on the floor. He's typically the only facilitator on the floor. And so when you take that away from him and you make other people have to create their own shot, you have a better chance. Danny Green can't shoot off the dribble. Make the dude take a dribble. Like you got to
yeah,
make him take a dribble instead of catching and shooting all game. Like you have to play to, what I'm saying, to those things saying, "Hey, you know what? Our scouting report says that, Rondo is not a good shooter if he has to, dribble the ball and shoot. You know what I'm saying? If he has to
right,
drive, he has to pick up and shoot. You know what I'm saying? That's not his strength. You know, Rondo will knock down a set shot, right? So what we're doing is, okay, cool. We're not going to allow them to be set shooters. We're going to run them off of everything. You know what I'm saying? There's no catch and
right,
shooting allowed. You have to stick to that game plan if that's what you want to do. You know, so you have to make a concerted effort on defense to do that, and then offensively, you have to run your sets. You have to run your sets. You got to get your guys going. Like I said, Duncan Robinson 0 for 3 tonight. He took 3 shots. That's terrible. You got
yeah,
to take more than 3 shots. You are the best shooter on the team. You have to take more than 3 shots. Because whether you make them or miss them, what you're doing is you're keeping the defense honest. You're still opening up the paint, right? If you're
right,
not shooting, the paint is not going to open up. And when that offense is flowing, it's flowing because you are taking those shots, because you can get to the rim, because you can do anything. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta man, it's a lot. Like the
Yeah,
Miami.
it's a tough loss, but this is a packed loss. This isn't just like, I don't think this is a simple loss that you can just push aside because there's so many aspects to this loss.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
let's talk about one other thing about this game, not really about the game specifically, but our president, the president that we wish was the president right now, Barack Obama was not in the building, but he was on the screen. Uh, he was on the screen watching the game. Shout out to Obama. You know, this anytime he's in the building or at a sporting event, it's always great to see. But he was watching the game virtually, so big ups to LeBron. Let's I got the highlights on in the background. The starting. Let's go to the starting five real quick. So we had Kentavious Caldwell Pope, we had Danny Green, LeBron James, AD, and Dwight Howard. I think I was not expecting Kentavious Caldwell Pope to start, but hey, he gave you some quick points that you needed, and I think that's vital for the Lakers, is if they can, like I just said, if they can get anybody besides LeBron and AD to give you something, then that's all just a bonus.
Yeah.
Now, let me see. Let me look at something else real quick. Lakers had the lead by 26 towards the end of the game. It was just like the floodgates had opened, and it was nothing else. It was nothing else that they were going to be able to do. Even and I kind of like what Van Gundy said. Even though these are garbage minutes, you got to be looking at this like, who can I use in these next games if one or three of these guys are out. So I don't know what maybe Spoelstra might have seen, what in that quote unquote garbage time, but you're gonna need some of them guys.
Well, that's why I said Kendrick Nunn. Kendrick Nunn finally got some minutes tonight. He played well. You got to look at that like, hey, we gonna need you now. Young guy, you got to come in here, keep the turnovers low, make smart passes, be decisive when shooting the ball or scoring. You got to do those things. That was another thing. Like, they just didn't look decisive. After Dragic went down, nothing looked decisive. Outside of Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was like, I'm going to the rim. I'm going to the rim. And you knew he was going to the rim. He didn't think about passing it. He went straight to the rim, took the contact, etc. But he's the only one that had a good game tonight for Miami. Everybody else just looked bad, And like I said, it was just overthinking. Like I said, maybe the lights was too bright for him today. I don't know. But those injuries, that's a lot to overcome, man. That's a lot to overcome.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we got game 2 on Friday. I think this is going to be a very important game because it depends on who's going to play, who's going to get those, those minutes, and depending on how the injury bug is going to go for the rest of this team. Being in the bubble, we finally got to the finals, and I do have to say it felt like the finals. It didn't feel weird, kind of like how the bubble kind of felt, where you knew there was no fans there. But to me, I don't know, but I want to get your opinion on this. It didn't matter there wasn't any fans there because it looked like a real NBA finals, and it felt like a real NBA finals.
Yeah, I mean, if the feel, the intensity was there, you could see the intensity. I mean, they did the floor really nice. The floor looked good.
Right. Yeah, with the red. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it had that feel of a finals game. I mean, and you could see the seriousness, and you could see the energy. The they played like they wanted to win something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you got that
Right.
from the beginning of the game. It was some urgency. Like, hey,
Right.
we going out here to get this ship. And so it felt good. Like I said, it just turned into a blowout. That second half was tough to watch just because it seeing Miami just hobbled like that, it was just like, man, like throwing the towel, bro. Just, you know, I mean, in my head, as that game continued, I was like, you know what? If I'm Coach Spo, I'm probably taking out Jimmy Butler. We down by 20. I think the league got up to like 35 at some point or something like that. It was up. They had got about 30. But
it was bad.
It was bad. But like after the at like the 6-minute mark of the third quarter, and it was up by like 20 something, and I could see that Jimmy Butler could not move. Like he was not moving. He wasn't sliding his feet. He was like ginger on the ankle. If I'm Coach Spo, I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and sit Jimmy down. Let's take Bam out. And we'll start getting ready for game 2. We're not gonna come back in this. Let's put some let's put some other players in. Let's see what they can get. See if we can find something that works, exploit some weakness or something. That would have been my thought process. Not saying that you give up, that you should just give up on the game, but like I said, you had so many injuries already. You had Jimmy Butler, you had Dragic already down. Man, just go out. You just want to stay healthy. You want to stay healthy, and now because of that, now you lose Bam too. So, in a pointless game because you wasn't coming back.
No,
the game was over.
It was over. Yeah,
it was over, and so now Bam is hurt and got hurt in some meaningless minutes. And that might just seal the whole series. Like, maybe you get 1 or 2 games. We were saying maybe they get 2 games, right? We were saying that with the healthy team, they get 2 games, or possibly win it. But without Bam, without Dragic, man, that's a sweep, man. It's a sweep. They'll be lucky to have a gentleman's sweep.
Yeah. I mean, it would be way too hard to be able to win because you needed everything. So at halftime, it was 65-48. LeBron doing a windmill. What he did, a windmill. At the end of the game, it didn't count, but it was fun to see him do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so much that they're going to be missing going into this next game. I don't think their confidence is going to be shot, but I do think if you don't have, like I said, one of those 3 players, which it wasn't like this was the 7th or 8th man on the bench getting injured. This was kind of your 3 of your main players that you need.
Your 3 main players.
They're 3-man players. Yeah. Now we get to see that to me makes this coaching aspect interesting. What is supposed to gonna do game 2, which I think, like you mentioned, what the game plan needs to be going into game 2. But a tough loss for Heat Nation. Also, Heat Twitter. If anybody's on Twitter, you know that Heat Twitter gets is fired because they be going after each other. But it's game 1. I was watching the highlights right now. AD had so many easy dunks. I mean, nobody was there. All he had to do was jump up and dunk the ball. So,
and that was a lot. And that was a lot because of just the rotations, right? Like somebody dumping down, driving to the rim, and AD's coming from the weak side. For easy dunk, easy layup, or he was getting dunks off of dunks off of missed shots, right? So offensive rebounding. Dwight Howard. So that's why I say it's like you have to figure out how you want to play this team. They are a team, and let's say you got Rondo and LeBron. LeBron are your those 2 guys really look at creating for everybody else. That's their strength. Yeah. They look to create for everybody else, and so. The recipient of that was AD today. But you have to figure out what you're going to do. You got to figure out, okay, we're going to stay home. We're going to play man up. They went to zone a little bit at some point, but they kind of got, like they didn't get the results that they wanted because they couldn't rebound the ball. So you have to figure out what you're going to do. You got to think of a different game plan. You got to be more aggressive. But like I said, they're in an uphill battle, man. Like you said, tough loss, right? Definitely a very tough loss.
Yeah. It's not something that they wanted to happen. I'm plugging my phone in, that's why you can't see me right now. But it's something that they wasn't expecting to happen. I think they They came prepared. This wasn't like this was. I don't think this was too big for them. I just think you got punched in the mouth. So now it just depends on how you respond. Game 2,
Yeah.
and so give me your thoughts for game 2. How do you think it's gonna go? Give me your prediction on who you have winning.
Well, right now with all the injuries, not knowing who's playing, I'm gonna say injuries. If injuries are there, right? If like I said, I don't think Dragic is playing. We don't know the status of Bam yet or
Yeah.
Jimmy. Jimmy finished the game. I'm assuming that his ankle will be better for game 2. It won't be 100%, but it will be better. You know, it all depends on if Bam is playing. If Bam is playing, I'm going to say that Miami squeaks out a tough one. They squeak out a tough one. I think they will, I think Spo will go to the drawing board. He will draw something up, and I think they'll squeak out a tough game. But if two of those guys are not there, game 2, we might see another blowout like the one we saw tonight.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. I think the Lakers are gonna win game 2. I think I think they're gonna win one like game 3 or 4 when after the Lakers have already won 2, and it's kind of like one of those where they just kind of sneak them and maybe the Lakers just they sit them or whatever. But I think I think game 2 is going to be a win by the Lakers, and to me, just to have LeBron, which is a player coach, to have Rondo, which is like the all-time point guard of point guards when it comes to just what he does as a point guard in the point guard position, and then you got Jason Kidd on the bench who's giving you whatever he's adding to that, and like they were saying, just them and being able to call the defense, it was a great win. And yeah, it was a tough loss for Miami. I think they'll be back. They'll play. I hope Dragic and Bam are all right. I hope so too. I know, says Taryn Rodriguez, Dragic has a plantar tear, and it's saying it's unexpected to see if he's going to play the next game. I don't know about Bam. I think Bam is just going to have to make a decision if he wants to play through the pain, because this is his injury that was already going on last series with the Celtics. So I think it's just going to be a matter of, can he play through the pain, and is it going to affect him maybe mentally. But I don't think it's one of those things where it's I don't think it's gonna keep him out the whole series. I think it's just a matter of, can he play through it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. He might miss a game if he miss a game, but the biggest thing is rebounding and keeping those big guys off the boards. And without Bam, you really don't have a chance of keeping them off the boards at all. I mean, he couldn't keep them off the boards tonight. Like the Lakers killed them on the boards. Whenever it was like second chance points, things like that, they were just getting there. And just the size. You know what I'm saying? So you got LeBron at 6'9". You got Dwight Howard at 6'11", 7 feet. You got McGee. You got Anthony Davis.
Davis.
I mean, it's just a lot of size on the floor. A lot of not only just size, athletic size. Like all 4 of those guys are athletic. So that kills you. When your biggest dude on the floor is Bam at what, 6'9"? I think he is 6'9". That's your biggest dude. So that hurts. And you have to be able to rebound. You have to be able to get, give yourself second chance points, as well as keep the other team off the boards, and they just couldn't do it tonight.
Yeah. And before we go, the funniest graphic I seen was, it said the matchup we've been waiting for, and it was, I think his name is Costas. Is that the Antetokounmpo brother that's on the Lakers? It said Costas Antetokounmpo and Miles Leonard. And neither one of them played. I don't know if Antetokounmpo is even there. I know Miles Leonard is there, but I guarantee you, if Bam is out, Miles Leonard is going to be active or playing, one or the other. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Let me see. Terrence says, you can tell LeBron is super focused on winning his 4th championship and the Lakers 17th. And the main thing I think that's got to be fueling all of them is Kobe. Like that is something that's in the back of their head. And what better way to finish off this season than to put up the trophy and say we did this for Kobe? But you know that's a part of it. I think a huge part of it definitely is LeBron. A huge part of it, AD doesn't have a championship. A huge part of it, Dwight Howard. Like all of these guys together are laser focused. I mean, to get the job done. Even when they were walking off the court, when they won the last series, LeBron was like, "It's not done. I mean, the job is not done yet." And he's right. You still got that one goal. So we'll see what happens. Game 2. We'll be back. We'll be doing this every post game. We set the time for 11, but the game ended, so we may start a little bit early the next time. But anybody that wants to jump on with us, let us know. We can definitely get you on with us so we can conversate and talk about NBA Finals, which they're here. Game 2 is on Friday, and
hopefully
can't
it ain't
wait.
a massacre. Hopefully it ain't a massacre.
Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not.
You like seeing, like, you want to see a good finals. You want to see competitive games. At the end of the day,
Right.
Today just wasn't the first quarter. After the first quarter, or maybe into the middle of the second quarter, it just was no longer competitive.
Yeah.
So you want to see a competitive game. So Friday night, while I'm in Reno bowling, I want to see a competitive game. Please, Heat. What I'm saying? It's Spo's a great coach. What I'm saying? Let's get real. Like, Spo is a great coach.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? He will make adjustments. Pat Riley will call him. Pat Riley will help him make adjustments. Pat Riley, because Pat Riley got a vendetta right now. He's like, look, we can't let LeBron get this ring. What I'm saying? So Pat Riley is coming down. Like, yo, look, we got to do this. We're gonna, I am sure that they will have something prepared. They will have a game plan that is ready to keep them in the game. Now will they win it? I don't know. That's why I said I want to give them, a puncher's chance that they can squeak out this win. But I definitely believe that they will have a better showing game 2 than they did game 1.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a series is partly about adjustments. How do you respond after you get punched in the mouth, after you get blown out? And that's a major thing right there. Terrence says that's what I've been saying with the playoffs begin. Lakers are winning for Kobe. What wouldn't surprise me is if the Lakers won the NBA championship and LeBron or Dwight went into the locker room after the ceremony and cried on the ground like MJ. You may see that. You may see that.
We might see that.
We might see that. Appreciate you, Mocha Bella. Thank you for tuning in tonight. So thank you guys for tuning in to the BS3 Radio Live. We're doing post game of Game 1, Lakers Heat. We'll be back on Friday. We'll see how this goes. Shout out to you, Ty. You always ready to ride.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. We'll do this again on Friday, man.
All right. Y'all have a good night or good morning. If you're on the East Coast, it's morning time. So have a good one. We'll be back. Peace.
Peace, y'all.